Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Aradhya Bhagavan Rajesh Tanayas Tadham Vrindavanam Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatra Dharana Paraha Anarpita Charim Chirat Karunayavatirna Kalau Samarpayitum Unnatojvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam. Hari Purata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Vasachi Nandana. Hare Krishna. We welcome all of our YouTube live listeners, our listeners over Facebook Live, and our dear listeners over Zoom. Welcome to all of you to this Gauramrita Day 9. Before we continue today, we would like to announce and congratulate the participants for the quiz session from Day 8. So we'd like to congratulate Hari Prasad Prabhu, Mother Flavia, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Meenakshi Modi Mataji, and Ranjani Gopika. Thank you so much. And we encourage devotees to please participate in this quiz session. You can send your answers either over Facebook or in the comments on the Facebook or in the comments in the YouTube, or you could even personally send it to any of the admins. But please do send us and participate in this quiz session. It really helps in understanding the Chaitanya Charitamrita much better. It helps us in grasping the concept more better in our own lives.
So in the previous chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he has devised a figurative example of describing the desire tree of bhakti, which is none other than Bhakti Kalpataru or Bhakti Vriksha. He mentioned that Lord Vishwambhara, he is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the gardener of this tree and also the main personality who has taken charge of it. Now, as the supreme enjoyer, he has enjoyed the fruits himself, he's distributed, but figuratively, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is both the tree as well as the gardener of the tree. And at the same time, he's the trunk of the tree as well. And this tree, it surrounds the entire world. There's the fruits of this tree which are coming, which are distributed to everyone. And then this tree of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely intoxicated the entire world. Now, what do we mean by figurative example? This is just an anomaly, an example. There is no tree, actual tree, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the trunk of that tree. No, it's just an example, an analogy to explain the entire mission of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
And Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we heard in the last chapter, in the last session, that how Mahaprabhu instructs us in the, he gives personal instructions to all of us. He mentions in the previous chapter that Akalai Maliami Kotofol Bilaibo means I am the only gardener. How many fruits can I alone distribute? Therefore, it would be a very, very laborious task for me. And at the same time, even after taking care of doing the labor, if sometimes I will always have this anxiety that maybe some people got it and some people didn't get. Keho pai ne, keho na pai, roy mone bhram. That I'll always have this anxiety that maybe some people got it, maybe some people didn't get it. So how should I, get rid of this? Therefore, I instruct every man in this universe to accept this Krishna conscious movement and distribute it everywhere. This is the universal instruction that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu gave all of us last chapter, in chapter 9.
So now let's continue the 10th chapter, chapter 10, which describes the trunk, the branches, the sub-branches of the Caitanya tree. Again, it has 164 verses, very less compared to all the other chapters, but significant nonetheless.
Text 1.
Shri Chaitanya Padmam Bhoja Madhupebhyo Namo Namah Kathanchid Ashraya Yesham Swapi Tadgandha Bhave. Let me repeatedly offer obeisances unto the be-like devotees who have always tasted the honey of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If even a doggish non-devotee somehow takes shelter of such devotees, he enjoys the aroma of the lotus flower. Ei malira ei brikshera akatya kathana eveshuno mukha shakhara nama vivara. Now he's describing the different names of the branches of this tree. He said it's inconceivable how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the gardener as well as the tree.
And we heard in the previous chapter itself that how Lord Nityānanda and Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu and Gadadhar, they are the main branches of this Chaitanya tree. So from there, we move forward.
So there were two brothers, Srivas Pandit, Sri Rama Pandit. They started the two branches that are well known. Then their two brothers were Shripati and Srinidhi. And these four brothers, their servants, their maid servants, they are considered one big branch. Who? Shripati, Srinidhi, Sri Rama Pandit, and Srivas Pandit. Srivas Angan, these four devotees were one branch. This is the second branch. The third big branch is Pundarika Vidyanidhi, who is so dear to the Lord that in his absence, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes cry because he was none other than King Vrishabhanu, the father of Srimati Radharani in Krishna Leela. The same person came as Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, the third big branch.
And the reason why Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he is so beautifully taking, in the next three chapters, chapter 10, 11, and 12, these three chapters, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is naming all of the different associates of Lord Chaitanya, direct associates of Lord Nityānanda in chapter 11, and direct associates and descendants of Sri Advaita Acharya in chapter 12. And there are some very beautiful pastimes that are explained in chapter 12. Very, very mysterious, magnanimous pastimes. So that we'll cover tomorrow. But what is the reason that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is talking about all of these associates? It is because so that we can get ourselves acquainted with some of the main characters that are coming up in Sri Chaitanya Leela. So here, just like the initial name credits are given before the movie is displayed, so similarly, this is how Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's spiking our interest. Oh, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he's the father of Srimati Radharani from Krishna Leela. And he would cry. As soon as you mention about Gaura, he would cry. I want to know more about him. I want to know more about him. That is the purpose. that so that we can get captivated to hear about each of these personalities who will be described in the forthcoming chapters. So that is the purpose, that these are initial name credits that are given so that our interest is spiked up by the wonderful author, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
So we will tell their pastimes later when they are relevant, when they come across, but here just the names, just familiarity of all the names of the devotees. The fourth branch is Gadadhar Pandit, which is an incarnation of the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna himself. No one can be equal to him. Gadadhar Pandit's spiritual master was Pundarik Vidyanidhi. It's a very, very interesting pastime. How Gadadhar Pandit, who is none other than Srimati Radharani, is taking initiation from Sri Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who is none other than Sri Maharaj Vishwanath. That's the fourth branch, Gadadhar Pandit. Fifth branch of the tree is Sri Vakreshwara Pandit, who was a very dear of Lord Chaitanya. He was known to dance with constant ecstasy, sometimes for how many hours? Are you ready? 72 hours continuous. 3 days continuous without sleeping. He could dance in ecstasy. That was his level of ecstasy, Sri Vakreshwar Pandit. So remember this name. Whenever we are chanting in Kirtan, remember Vakreshwar Pandit, how Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu was so pleased with his dancing. In fact, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he personally sang whenever Vakreshwar Pandit danced. And dancing, 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 he would just fall at the lotus feet of the Lord. Sri Vakreshwar Pandit ki jai.
Next, the sixth branch of the Gauranga tree, who is Pandit Jagadananda, is described that he was the life and soul of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He is known to have been an incarnation of Queen Satyabhama, very special personality. You know, Satyabhama is one of the chief queens of Dwarka, one of the 8 principal queens, and Pandit Jagadananda or Jagadananda Pandit, who is the 6th branch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire devotional tree. He is none other than Satyabhama. Then comes Raghav Pandit, a very, very important personality, extremely important personality, Raghav Pandit. He is said to be Lord Chaitanya's original follower, and he is the 7th branch of the Chaitanya tree. And from him came another sub branch, which was headed by Makaradhwaja Kara. That is another associate of Raghav Pandit. And Raghav Pandit, you know, his glories are so magnanimous, especially of his sister Damayanti. Damayanti Devi was the dear, dear beloved servitor of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And she, for the entire year, she would cook various ingredients which are found seasonally, like amlaki, good lemons, mangoes, ripe mangoes, raw mangoes. She would make preparations for Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, like she would make, you know, items that would stay for, you know, 3-4 months together, or sometimes even 7-8 months together. The items that were made by Damayanti Devi, and Raghav Pandit would take this, personally carry it to Jagannath Puri, to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, for months together, he would honor the loving prasadam that Damayanti Devi had cooked.
And
Sorry.
Sri Damayanti Devi, this was in Panihati. Their house is in Panihati, and from Panihati to Sri Navadvip Dham, to Mayapur, all this prasadam would be taken. In fact, it's said that there are 4 very important things. It's Nitai Nortone, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resides in the dancing of Lord Nityānanda Prabhu. Nitai Nortone in Shachi Randhone, which means in the cooking of Srimati Radharani.
Sachi.
Sorry, Shri Sachi Mata. And then it was Shrivas Angane, that in the Angan, in the courtyard of Shrivas Pandit. And finally,
Is Raghaver Bhavane, which is in Panihati. So it is said that Lord Chaitanya manifests whenever, these four, he manifests in these four places. Whenever Lord Nityananda dances, whenever Sachi Mata cooks, whenever there is kirtan at Srivas Thakur's courtyard, and whenever there is, I mean, he's always residing at the home of Raghav Pandit because of Damayanti Devi. Damayanti Devi, she would actually, pack all these prasadam and she would send it with her brother Raghav Pandit, and it was called as Raghaver Jhuli. So the author, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says that, when Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, all the devotees from Bengal, they would go and visit him in Jagannath Puri. And Raghav Pandit would carry bags and bags and bags of this prasadam loaded for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the bag in Bengali is called as Jhuli. So the Lord accepted these foods throughout the entire year. And those bags are still celebrated as Raghaver Jhuli, the bags of Sri Raghav Pandit, which contain delicacies that was cooked extremely expertly by Damayanti Devi. So the author is saying, don't get worried. Don't get worried. I will describe the exact, contents of this bag of Raghava. Don't be worried. When it will be time, I will give exact descriptions of what this bag contains, when the time is right. So just see how beautifully Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's spiking our interest. Oh, what is this Raghaver Jhuli? What does it have? We want to know, how could a person make such an ingredient, so many items that could be eaten year long? That is the special quality of Raghaver Jhuli, of Damayanti Devi.
There were no refrigerators then, but still they would survive not just the travel from Panihati to Jagannath Puri, but even stay there for a long time. So earlier I said Panihati to Sri Mayapur Dham, I meant Panihati to Sri Jagannath Puri. And it's so wonderful to describe these different contents later in the book. That Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, devotees, they generally cry and tears glide down from their eyes when they hear the narration of the contents of Raghaver Jhuli, of the bags of Raghava Pandits. Which means, before writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he has described to a few devotees, and he has gotten this feedback where devotees are just crying, hearing the contents. So let's wait for that time. Then the 19th branch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tree is Vasudev Datta, who was a wonderful personality, very confidential devotees of the Lord. And it's said, even with thousands of mouths, one could not describe his glories. What is the glory of Sri Vasudev Thakur, Vasudev Datta? He told Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I'm willing to suffer for the sinful activities of all the people in the world so that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, you can deliver them. Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, people are so sinful. How will I deliver them? And Sri Vasudev Datta was so compassionate, he said, and so eager to participate in the movement of Lord Chaitanya. He said, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, don't worry. Give me all the sins and you take them. And then Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, just by your desire, all of the living entities have been eradicated of all the sinful activities, and they will go back home, back to Godhead. And suddenly, the question is, then how can we see so many people around? They're still there. If Lord Chaitanya said that everyone is liberated just by your desire, what happens? Well, some say, yes, they are liberated. It's only time which is separating everyone. And others say, right then, the entire world got empty for a moment. And then other rebellious souls immediately filled it. So if this is if since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned everyone is liberated, which means if we are here, we are probably 500 years old souls in this particular world. So there are so many living entities that are waiting. But that set of living entities by Sri Vasudev Datta's desire got liberated. At the same time, Sri Vasudev Datta is known to be an incarnation of Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Do you remember who prayed something similar? Prahlad Maharaj prayed something similar. I don't mind to get all the sinful reactions. Let me be in hell, but please deliver all of them.
And in this same mood, I cannot not mention one of our immediate acharyas who developed the same mood, the same attitude like Vasudev Datta, a very glorious disciple of Srila Prabhupada, His Holiness Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj. Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj is such an amazing personality that he prayed that if I have to suffer for the entire world, and if this means that people are in the world who are suffering, they can get a chance to come into Srila Prabhupada's movement and get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I do not mind the suffering. And right after that, Maharaj was detected with cancer and he left us. But he left with us. He left his beautiful instructions in the form of his amazing books that he has written. He has written a series called as The Beggar that gives us the mood in which we must appeal to the Lord, that we are begging. We are no one other than just a beggar on the street. And what is supposed to be the mood of the beggar? We beg that. And that mood is, imbibed and shown to all of us by His Holiness, Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj, who imbibed this very mood of Srila Vasudeva. So all glories to Srila Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj ki jai. Moving on, the 20th branch of Sri Chaitanya was Haridas Thakur, Brahma Haridas. His character is amazing. His activities are super excellent. He used to chant 300,000 names of Krishna every single day. This is the glory of Srila Haridas. So just imagine anyone who's listening to the first time, who Haridas Thakur chanting these many rounds. I want to know about him. We want to know about him. So these are just initial credits to spike our interest. Then Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami talks about Shivananda Sen, who is the 24th branch of this Chaitanya tree, who was an extremely confidential associate of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Because, why? Why is Shivananda Sen so glorious? Because, the devotees, when they would travel from West Bengal, when they would go to Jagannath Puri every year to meet Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who was the one who would take care of all the arrangements? Who is the one who would take care of everything? Where they're going to stay, where they're going to, how they're going to take prasad, how they're going to, cross the different, borders, the different things. Everything was taken care of by this one person. That is Shivananda Sen. So this is a very, very glorious personality. And thus, to please Lord Chaitanya, he would take this party of devotees every year from Bengal to Jagannath Puri.
Then on the western side are the 43rd and 44th and 45th branches. They are Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, and their brother Anupam. Anupam is none other than the father of Srila Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami was the nephew of Srila Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Rupa Goswami, the son of Anupam. They are 43rd, 44th, and 45th branches. After that, Let's now listen to the glories of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami that Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes as the 46th branch of the tree. Because Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he is the Acharya for renunciation. He left all material possessions to just surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. In fact, when Raghunath Das Goswami, he was a millionaire practically, almost close to a billionaire in those times, because his family, Govardhan Majumdar, and his father and uncle, they were like tax collectors for the Mughal rulers at that time, and he had no dearth of any material opulence. But he approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very humbly at Jagannath Puri after he left his parents' house. And then and there is more details to come later in later chapters. But at that time, the Lord entrusted him to the care of Srila Swarup Damodar, his secretary. And both Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami, they engaged in the confidential service of the Lord. Swarup Damodar Goswami was the personal secretary, but Raghunath Das Goswami, he continued serving the Lord in Jagannath Puri for 16 years. And after the Lord left, and Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami also left, he left Jagannath Puri, he came to Vrindavan. He came to Vrindavan in order to have darshan of the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. And then he said, after I have darshan of their lotus feet, there is nothing else in my life to do. I have served Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He has left. I served the servant of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. He has left. What is there for me to live? He intended, I'll go to Vrindavan, have darshan of the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and then give up my life by jumping from Govardhan Hill. Of course, Govardhan Hill was much higher at that time, 500 years ago. Every day it is reducing by the size of a mustard seed. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he came to Vrindavan, he visited Srila Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami offered him his obeisances, but the two brothers, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, did not allow him to die. They accepted him. You are our third brother. And then they kept him in their own company. Now, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, where did I get all this information about Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and associates? Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he was an assistant to Swarup Damodar Goswami, and he knew so much about the external and internal features of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Why Lord Chaitanya did this? Why Lord Chaitanya did that? How did he do in Jagannath Puri for 16 years? And so Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami would not let him go. No, tell us this pastime of Lord Chaitanya. What else did he do? Every moment's account, can you please give us? And then Raghunath Das Goswami, he gave up all food and drink. He just took a little bit of buttermilk, few drops of buttermilk. And in Life Comes from Life, Srila Prabhupada's book, Srila Prabhupada writes there that if Raghunath Das Goswami, he can subsist on a few drops of buttermilk, how is that possible? That's what his disciples asked. Prabhupada said, well, someone who's addicted to alcohol, they may feel, oh, how can I live without alcohol? Because they're so addicted. Similarly, we are addicted to sense gratification through food. So it is possible. Of course, we should not imitate such great souls as Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, but food is also an addiction. This is what Srila Prabhupada was saying in Life Comes from Life, in the context of Raghunath Das Goswami, just having a few drops of buttermilk. And then Srila Raghunath Das Goswami,
he would regularly offer 1,000 obeisances to the Lord every single day. And he would chant at least 100,000 holy names, and he would offer obeisances to every Vaishnava that he would meet. It is said that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he would, you know, day and night, he would just keep meditating and just keep, going on and on about the pastimes of Shri Radha and Krishna. And for 3 hours every single day, he would give classes on the glories of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
We are hardly able to give for 45 minutes to an hour, and it requires so much preparation, so many things. But Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, 3 hours every day, because he lived in the association of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu himself. So we pray to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami that please award all of us the purifications, those who are speaking, those who are listening, this Gauramrita, Sri Gauramrita, so that we can also relish the Gaura Leela, just like you would relish Gaura Leela. No one can speak on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu every day unless we develop a taste for these pastimes. 3 hours every day, that requires taste. And we take breaks on Saturday and Sunday. He would not take any break. Every single day, he was so eager to speak on the pastimes of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and all the devotees were so eager to listen, to hear about these pastimes that Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu would manifest in these wonderful words of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami.
And Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he would actually live near Radha Kund. He would take 3 baths daily in the holy waters of Sri Radha Kunda, just as is prescribed by Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, just following that same way that Mahaprabhu took bath at Radha Kund. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he would bathe every day at Sri Radhakund. And whenever he would find a Vaishnava who was residing in Vrindavan, he would embrace that Vaishnava and give them all respect. So he was literally living. He was a living example of the 3rd verse of Shikshashtaka. Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnana, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, I'm struck with wonder when I hear about the devotional service that Das Goswami executed. I accept Srila Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami as my guides.
Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hobe Akurti
Kobe Heno Heribo Shei Jugala Piriti. This is the call that when will that day come that we will develop unflinching attraction to the lotus feet of Rupa and Das Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. You see, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he accepted Srila Rupa Goswami as a Shiksha Guru and Raghunath Das Goswami as his Diksha Guru. So like this, that's why he's saying that Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami are my guides. So therefore we see at the end of every chapter, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is offering his obeisances to these 2 personalities, Srila Rupa and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami.
And that is why that is the source of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's narrations, especially of the later part of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He had so much information of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes from Srila Raghunath Das Goswami himself. So we can see that here. Later, he's saying, I will explain elaborately about how Raghunath Das Goswami met Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, how Rupa Goswami met Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So he had personal account. He was like the journalist, taking notes and stories and writing this for posterity. Because of his mercy, we are able to now hear and recite the glories of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
So now let's listen to something very amazing. It is said that the 89th and the 90th branch, very, very carefully, please hear, because it can be very surprising. Who is the 89th and the 90th branch of the Gauranga tree is none other than our very, very wonderful brothers, Jagai and Madhai. Jai Shri Jagannath, Jagai and Madhai ki Jai. These two brothers, they were notorious Brahmins, notorious. But their life is the witness of how Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's mercy is uncomparable. And more than Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, it's the mercy of the all merciful Lord Nityānanda. Who is, Gauramrita, they are Patita Pavana. They are the deliverer of the fallen. That is the Sakshi, the witness is the life of Jagai and Madhai. So therefore, Jagai and Madhai, they also became very powerful acharyas. Once they were delivered by Gauranga Mahaprabhu, they became very, very powerful acharyas. They became the 89th and the 90th branch of the Caitanya tree.
So therefore, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami concludes this chapter and says, in this way, I have only listed a portion of the innumerable devotees of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Why? May I ask, why only a portion? Why did he go from, 4th and 5th and 9th branches to again to 45th branch, 17th branch? He describes, he says, because to describe all of them is not possible. And then he says, from each of these branches, there have hundreds and thousands of sub-branches and disciples of these devotees and grand disciples of these devotees. There's a whole parampara which comes along with them. And in each of these branches and sub-branches, there are innumerable flowers, there is fruits, and they just inundate the world with the waters of love of Krishna. In fact, each of these branches and sub-branches has unlimited spiritual power and glory. And it's impossible to describe the limits of their activities, even if one had thousands of mouths. So this is a brief description of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu of the devotees of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And he says even Lord Shesha, who has thousands of mouths, could not list them all. So what to speak of me?
And what to speak of us, because there are all the details still, quite a few numbers, but, we chose just a few to speak in the class. But if we read that chapter, it has all the names of these associates and many, many more, whom Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying that it's difficult for us to mention all of them. So this brings us to chapter 11, the expansions of Lord Nityānanda. So as the branches and the sub-branches of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were described in the 10th chapter, in this 11th chapter, the branches and the sub-branches of Sri Nityananda Ram are very wonderfully described. So there are only 61 verses in this chapter. Now, if we remember how the first verse of the previous chapter, the chapter 10, how did that chapter start? That, I offer my, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, that I offer my respectful obeisances to the devotees who are like honeybees, who are roaming around the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Let's see how this chapter starts. Nityānanda padam poja, Vringan prema madhunmadan, Natva kilanteshu mukhya, Likhyante katachinmaya.
After offering my obeisances to all the devotees of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who are like bumblebees, who are collecting honey from his lotus feet, I shall try to describe who are the most prominent. So Nityananda Prabhu is the topmost branch of the indestructible tree of the love of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I offer my respectful obeisances to all the sub-branches of that topmost branch. So the main branch is Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and the topmost branch.
And the most sturdy one, the most strongest one, it is said. So it says, Sri Nityānanda Vrikshero Skandha Guru Tar Tahate Janmila Shakha Proshakha Vistar.
Sri Nityānanda Prabhu is an extremely heavy branch of Sri Caitanya tree, because from that branch grew many more branches and sub-branches, because it was watered by the desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These branches, sub-branches have grown unlimitedly, and they cover the entire world with fruits and flowers. So far, we described the associates of Lord Chaitanya, but then there are associates of Lord Nityānanda as well, who are very much devoted to him, like Sri Lochan Das Thakur, who wrote Sri Chaitanya Mangal, and many such wonderful devotees. Just like Krishna had his own sets of gopis and Balaram has his own sets of gopis, similarly, in Gaur Nitai Leela, in Chaitanya Leela, Gauranga Mahaprabhu has his own set of associates, and Nityananda Prabhu has his own set of associates who are assisting. But all of their goal is one. There is no competition. Everyone respects each other with such, because they are inundated with the cool breeze of Krishna Prema.
So it doesn't mean that because they are branches coming down from Lord Nityananda, that they are not devotees of Lord Gauranga. It doesn't mean that. They are just dedicated to the service of Lord Nityananda, or they were directly serving Lord Nityananda under the instructions of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So that's how these branches and the other sub-branches, that's how these things come about. So we should not confuse about that.
And even Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he, by service, he was the associate of Lord Nityananda, who was actually instructed, because he defended one of the associates of Lord Nityananda as well, and Lord Nityananda himself, Minaketana Ramdas. So he was associating with the associates of Lord Nityananda, and he got this wonderful service to glorify who? Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So then he said, who can count so many branches and sub-branches? But I will try to enumerate only the prominent for my purification. Just this is the mood of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He's not saying, now listen to me. I am the chosen one. I have actually written all of this, and thou shalt read it. No, he's saying, no, I just cannot describe, but I'm describing it for my own personal purification. That should be the mood. We are preaching for our own personal purification. Even if no one hears, at least we are hearing what we are speaking. And that's our purification.
So after Nityananda Prabhu, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, the greatest branch is Virabhadra Gosai, who also has innumerable branches and sub-branches. It is not possible to describe all of them. Who is Virabhadra? Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that he is the direct son of Lord Nityananda himself, and he is a direct disciple of Janavadevi. Janavadevi is one of the consorts of Lord Nityananda. And although Janavadevi is not the mother, but she became the Guru mother, the Guru Mata of Virabhadra. And the birth mother of Virabhadra is Vasudha Devi. So it is said that Virabhadra Gosai is an incarnation of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, the Vishnu who is the Paramatma in our heart. So that Paramatma in our heart is incarnated in Gauralila as Virabhadra Gosai, the son, the glorious son of Lord Nityananda.
Said that even though Virabhadra Gosai is Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Paramatma, but he presented himself as a great devotee only, not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even though The Supreme Lord is above all the Vedic injunctions. He doesn't have to follow all the Vedic injunctions. He doesn't observe Ekadashi. We observe. But still, he strictly followed the Vedic rituals in the mood of his devotee. So not only Krishna had come to actually set an example of how to become his devotee, even Balaram had come. Even Mahavishnu had come to set an example as his devotee. Even the Paramatma within the heart had manifested as Virabhadra Gosai to set an example of how to become his devotee. What pleases the Paramatma? Paramatma is watching everything. He's the witness of every thought. He is the sanctioner of every thought before. He knows our thought before we know our thoughts. Such a wonderful personality is the one who, who is coming to set an example of a devotee. He is the main pillar in the hall of devotional service that is erected by Sri Supreme Lord Vishnu. And he was completely prideless. So by the mercy of Sri Virabhadra Gosai, people all over the world now have the chance to chant the names of Caitanya, Nityānanda, Gauranga, Nityānanda. And then he actually lists all the wonderful devotees and associates of Lord Nityānanda: Sri Madhav Ghosh, Raghunath, Sundarananda, Suryadas Sarakhela, who is Lord Nityananda's father-in-law, Gauridas Pandit, Parameshwar Das, Jagdish Pandit, Dhananjay Pandit, Purushottama Das, Udharana Datta Thakur. If actually you hear the glories of Udharana Datta Thakur, it is said that Srila Prabhupada was one of the descendants of Sri Udharana Datta Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada would say that my father would take me to this village. I forget the name of this village, but his father would always take him and say, this is the place of our family deity, of Gaurnitai, but they were actually descendants of Udharana Datta Thakur, the Day family. And so these are some of the branches and sub-branches.
Which also includes Lochan Das Thakur, who is the author of Chaitanya Mangala, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, who is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Vrindavan Das Thakur, who is the author of Srila Chaitanya Bhagavata. So all of these three personalities actually are from Nityananda Prabhu's direct associates and form the branches coming from Lord Nityananda himself.
And so finally he ends this chapter saying, I have briefly described only some of the followers and devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even the thousand-mouthed Sheshanag cannot describe all of these unlimited devotees of Sri Nityananda. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
jai.
Jai. Shri Gurudev ki jai.
So tomorrow we will be continuing on to chapter 12, chapter 12, where we will be describing about the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya Prabhu's branches and his sub-branches, and there are some amazing pastimes, especially two amazing pastimes that we will share tomorrow, which come in connection with Srila Advaita Acharya. So please stay tuned for tomorrow's session. And from the next day, from day after tomorrow, we will dive into the nectar of the appearance of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So in order to prepare our consciousness, we thought that today we will chant and lovingly call out to the holy names of Krishna, which is brought down, which has been awarded to all of us by Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharya Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is the tune that Sri Shachi Mata will sing in separation of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and her heart would be soothed, feeling the presence of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu while chanting this raga. And in separation from our spiritual masters, in separation from Srila Prabhupada, separation from Gauranga Mahaprabhu, in this same mood of Shachi Mata, who would cry in separation of her beloved son Vishwambar, who was residing in Jagannath Puri as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let us also lovingly call out to the holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Before we open the lines, let us quickly announce the quiz questions for today. Okay. The first question: name the brothers of Srivas Pandit. Second, what is the identity of Pundarik Vidyanidhi in Krishna Leela?
Third, how would Vakreshwar Pandit express his ecstasy for the pleasure of Lord Gauranga? Fourth, how did Satyabhama appear in Chaitanya Leela?
Fifth, who is the sister of Raghav Pandit and how would she serve Lord Chaitanya? Sixth, name the four places in which Lord Chaitanya always manifests.
Seventh, what is the glory of Vasudev Datta and whose incarnation is he? Eighth, name the devotee who would make all the arrangements for devotees going from Bengal to Jagannath Puri to meet Lord Chaitanya.
Ninth, mention some of the exemplary devotional activities of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. 10th, who are the 89th and the 90th branches of the Chaitanya tree?
11th, who is Virabhadra Gosai? 12th, how is Srila Prabhupada connected to Uddharana Datta Thakur?
Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Ranjani Gopika, for the wonderful questions. We are very, very grateful to you. So now let's open up the lines. Garima, you have your hand raised first, beta.
Can you unmute yourself?
Garima, can you unmute yourself, beta? Hare Krishna.
Okay, maybe Bhakti Priya. We can go next to Bhakti Priya.
I think Garima is not able to. Prem Vikas Prabhu, can we allow Garima to unmute? The participants can unmute themselves, please.
Hare Krishna, Mataji,
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna, beta.
Dhanami, Pranam, all glories to Shri Prabhupada and Gurudev. I like this class and like how I was, like how you said you might get surprised. Like I actually got surprised how Jaga and Madai were acharyas. They're on the 90 branch, something around 90. I liked everything today because it was talking about all the branches and like everything. I have a question that
Yes.
now how did
Raghunath
Das
Das
Goswami, how did he survive on buttermilk? Just few drops and survive.
It is said that his attraction to Krishna, Sri Radha and Krishna and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu was so great that he would become completely nourished just by remembering the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna. See, why do we generally eat? We eat so that our body gets energy, right? That's the purpose that we eat. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami he was surcharged with spiritual energy. So so he was just eating that much that was needed to keep his body and soul together. So that's why just by drinking a few, drops of buttermilk, he was able to survive.
Yeah, I understand. I drew this Gora Nimai.
Right. Beautiful, beta. Really beautiful. Love the colors.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, beta. Hare Krishna.
This is Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityānanda?
Caitanya.
Okay, he is copper color, so looks more like Lord Nityānanda. But that's okay. When he dances, but it's said that Lord Chaitanya appears wherever Lord Nityānanda dances, Nitai Nartane. So if you make him dance, Lord Chaitanya will appear.
Yeah.
Thank you, beta. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Priya. Yes, Bhakti Priya. Hari Bol. We cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Ooh, there's a lot of feedback. Maybe you are logged in from too many places. Okay, she'll come.
Mataji, now?
Yes.
Yes, now we
Am I
can hear.
audible?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji, I couldn't attend your classes in live. So today with determination, I have to attend your class. So I attended your class today. It was so nice and amazing, Mataji. And that branches,
Yes.
how many branches are there totally? 99, right?
Unlimited branches.
Ah,
But Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes only a few. So yes, he has described 90th branches, and then he has said, well, there are so many more. And then he goes on to describe the branches, sub-branches of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, who has unlimited branches also.
Then tomorrow we'll hear about Advaita Acharya Prabhu's branches. So like this, there are unlimited, not countable.
and Raghunath Das Goswami, he is such a great devotee and a pure devotee, right? He survived in that buttermilk. So
Yes.
great.
That
So,
too,
Mataji, I have two questions.
Yes.
The first question is, Gauranga Mahaprabhu has so many names like Nimai, Vishwambar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Sachinanda Gaurahari, then so on. If Gauranga Mahaprabhu has so many names, then what about Nityānanda Prabhu? How many names he has?
He also has many names. Nitai, Karuna Nitai, Madhur Nitai,
Nityananda Ram.
Nityananda Gosai, and he is also called as just Ram, and Avadhut Mahashai, Avadhut Shiromani. He is also called as,
Then
yeah, many names. He has got many, many names.
my second question is, in Gurum Parampara, if we see in Gurum Parampara, there are 6 Goswamis. Then if we see like the Prabhupada, then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaura Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj, then Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, then the 6 Goswamis.
we are worshipping only 6 Goswamis. Why there are no Narottama Das Thakur, then Haridas Thakur, Raghunath Das Goswami, then Jiva Goswami? They are all main characters, right?
Raghunath Das
Main
Goswami and Jiva
acharyas,
Goswami.
why they are not there in that group?
Raghunath Das Goswami and Jiva Goswami fall within the 6 Goswamis. And the other acharyas, if we have to worship all of them, then just open up the 32nd page of the Bhagavad Gita. You by heart all their names and you worship, no problem. But Srila Prabhupada said that if we have just these acharyas who are our prominent ones, recent ones, till Lord, till the 6 Goswamis, and then after the 6 Goswamis, they are the direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya. So therefore, we worship them like that.
But in the Vaishnava calendar, we celebrate the appearance and disappearance days of all these different acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, Haridas, Srila Haridas Thakur, all of them. So we respect all of them, but then, due to limitation of space on the altar and all of that, we say these recent acharyas are representing all the other acharyas. And if we don't have that much space, also just Srila Prabhupada is representing the entire Guru Parampara for us. So even if we have just Srila Prabhupada, he would represent everyone else.
Okay, Mataji and Prabhuji, thank you for such a wonderful class and thank you for answering my question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhakti Priya. Thank you, beta. It's so wonderful to see you. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, beta. Devhuti Mataji. Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead, Mataji. We'll take.
No, Mataji. The Mataji is in front of me. Yes, Mataji, I saw that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, that's.
It's my mistake. Please forgive me for this. Hari Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. No problem, Mataji. I'll wait. Let her finish and then I'll share my realization. Yeah, I'll wait.
That's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Mataji and Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Gauranga and Nityānanda. And thank you so much, Mataji, for today's session. It is very, very wonderful. I come to know the many branches of Mahaprabhu. And also I come to know Gadadhar Pandit, who has taken initiation from Pundarika Vidyanidhi. He is also an incarnation of Vrishabhanu. So today only I come to know many names of all the devotees. It is really wonderful to hear from you both. And also I had few questions initially, but Prabhu answered. I thought to ask why the branches is going 42nd, 45th, or 89, 90. Why is this missing in between? Prabhu has answered. And I have one more question as well, Prabhu. In between, you said like the Raghunath Das Goswami was serving Mahaprabhu and Swarupa Das, right? Damodar, right? Both, he served both Mahaprabhu and Swarupa Damodar Das in Puri.
Yes, because when he came to Jagannath Puri to meet Lord Chaitanya put him under the care of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, and Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami was his personal secretary of Lord Chaitanya, which means anyone who wanted to meet Lord Chaitanya had to first come through Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. Swarup Damodar Goswami would actually make sure that this devotee has good intentions, that if he spends time with Gauranga Mahaprabhu, his time, Gauranga Mahaprabhu's time will be well spent, and all of these. Otherwise, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami would take care of his needs at his level itself. And also, so Raghunath Das Goswami would be assisting Swarup Damodar Goswami in this service of, speaking to devotees who come to meet Lord Chaitanya, doing Lord Chaitanya's menial services, anything that Lord Chaitanya needs, maybe for if someone comes and wants Lord Chaitanya to read his entire book, then Raghunath Das Goswami, Swarup Damodar Goswami would read it first, and then if they could answer it, they could answer, or they would go to Gauranga Mahaprabhu, give him the essence of what the book is about, and then Gauranga Mahaprabhu would decide whether he wants to go ahead with it or not. and then they would deal with them, and then if at all, then they would allow devotees to meet Lord Chaitanya in this way, so that Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies are not disturbed in that way. So it was a thankless task, because I'm sure several devotees would be offended. Oh, why I would really want to meet him, and depending on the eagerness, he has to decide. But yes, Raghunath Das Goswami would assist Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami in the secretarial activities of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
And take care of the needs of Gauranga Mahaprabhu.
Yeah, Mataji and Prabhuji. And when you explain the four exemplary qualities of Raghunathas Goswami, right, feel like how the Vaishnava should be. So I'm very eager to know all the Goswamis and all other devotees' pastimes as well. I'll wait. And I want to thank the bhajan which you both sing. Every time when you sing this Hare Krishna, I'm crying, Mataji and Prabhuji. I don't know. Tears are automatically coming. When I go to ISKCON temple, hundreds of people will chant, right? That time only I'll get the tears. But when you two sing, I don't know, automatically my eyes are getting wet. I cried. And very, very nice and dedicational service to you. My humble obeisance to you, both of you. And I also pray for to the God, you need to deliver every one of us, and you're uplifting the spiritual platform as well. Thank you so much, Prabhuji and Mataji. Thanks a lot.
For your
Thank
prayers
you.
and blessings.
Thank you, Hari Prasad Prabhu. We really have to say that you are such a sincere soul. Your sincerity inspires us. You have been with us from the very beginning, and you have, not given up on us. So that is our, greatest benediction, that we have such a wonderful brother as you in our family. You are a
Yeah,
brother
I'm
to
your
us.
family, part of your family. I didn't say that one inside my heart, but you made me to hear that one. So I'm also part of your family. I'll meet you one day, Mataji and Prabhuji.
Yes,
Definitely.
we look forward to that day, Prabhu. We look forward to
Thank
that
you.
day.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Devahuti Mataji, thank you for your patience.
Thank you
No,
so much,
Prabhuji.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Mataji. Like as Hari Prasad Prabhu says, like I also got to know so many names and so many the related things with them. So that was so nice. Like so I can try to remember this related things with them. So, but can you like as the Vasudev that like how he desired that he wants to take care of all the pain and the sorrow of the devotee, and the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that he will deliver. So can you, and you said so can you explain little more on that context, like
How the
how,
pastime happened?
yeah, then how like for a second, as Prabhuji said, like for a second all the jivas like how the planet is empty, and then the right away the all the another jivas come down, please. If
Yeah, I mean, we were having a discussion with certain devotees, and when we were discussing this several decades ago, that okay, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, and it will come when we discuss, when Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, this particular thing comes about Vasudev Datta. At that time, we will discuss in more detail. But at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so moved by Sri Vasudev Datta's uh, compassion that he is willing to take everyone's sinful activity. Imagine if someone comes to us and says, can you can you take my sinful activities, please, so I can go back home, back to Godhead? Just one person. Will we, I mean, we'll have to, at least we have to say, however compassionate we are, we'll say, we'll think about it and get back to you. Can you tell us what all sinful activities you've done? So it's a lot of, but he's saying all without knowing everyone's, and I can be in hell. And so seeing that compassion, because Lord Chaitanya is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, he understood that Vasudev Tatta is really means it. He's not saying just to impress. And so, because of his sincere desire and compassion, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, just by your desire, I am making your desire come true. You don't have to take the sinful activities, but your desire is that they be delivered. I will deliver them. They have all the sinful activities have already gone. And so it is said that the entire world became empty, and boom, it became again filled up.
But
with
another
all the
understanding
devotees.
which Prabhu also mentioned in the class itself is that time is separating,
So we are all delivered already by Vasudev Dasta's prayers.
But time is separating it. That for the fulfillment of that desire to manifest, time is the separating factor, that everyone, will be delivered. And, just by that desire of Vasudev Datta, Lord Chaitanya, he accepted it. He said tathastu to that.
Because we may be delivered from sinful activities. We may be eligible to go back home, back to Godhead. But do we want to? Ultimately, it comes back to, do we really want to? If we really want to, then we will follow the principles, we will chant the holy names and follow the sadhana bhakti, and then it will go away. But unless we want to go back home, back to Godhead, Krishna, even if he wants to, how can he take us?
Yeah.
So that is also another consideration. But yes, it is. So one of the devotees was describing that everyone at that time went back home. It's just, and then they were quickly filled as well.
So time is separating also.
Oh.
So when we discuss the Leela in detail, you will see more things manifesting, much more, to our understanding.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare Krishna. Love your deities behind you. Very beautiful
Oh.
deities.
No, thank you, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Govindji. Yes.
Hare Bol. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev. Beautiful. Any other questions?
If not, we can end here. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Mataji,
Mataji.
Dandavata
Thank you
Pranam.
so much.